Welcome to Picking Bones. My name is Eric Jones. Today we're going to talk about Kamala Harris and the secret Masonic police force. What? Yes, Kamala Harris, who just stepped down as a presidential candidate. Let's take a look at her. And this is actually an older story we're going to be taking a look at. But first, Dem So White. Kamala Harris' exit raises hard questions about race and power in the Democratic Party. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, white people are pretty horrible, so I don't know if the Democrats are going to be able to win with white people, because white people are obviously a cancer on society. Without Kamala Harris, what will we do? I just don't know. But I do know we won't have quite as much Masonic corruption in the police forces without Kamala Harris. Here's an old story from 2015, and it's pretty weird. Somebody sent me this this morning, and so we're going to talk about this story and a few related things. But basically, there was this fake Masonic police force that got busted, and it included an aide of Kamala Harris. And so let's just go through this article. This is the initial article that broke the story from the LA Times. It says the captain, Roosevelt Johnson, thought it was odd when three people came in dressed in police uniforms that he didn't recognize. One man introduced himself as the chief of the Masonic Fraternal Police Department and told Johnson this was a courtesy call to let him know that their agency was setting up shop in the area. The meeting went on for 45 minutes, but it left him confused and suspicious. So he ordered some of his deputies to pull surveillance, get images of the visitors, and he sent some detectives to start looking at what was going on here. 3 people got charged for impersonating police officers: David Henry, Tonette Hayes, and Brandon Keel. Brandon Keel was the aide to Kamala Harris in the Department of Justice. So Johnson said Keel did most of the talking. Keel said in addition to his police position, he worked for Harris. When Keel departed, Johnson said he left a card for the Department of Justice. A spokesman for the DOJ said that Keel was placed on paid leave after this. The day that he was arrested, his salary is $67,000 plus. So yeah, when he came in for the meeting, he says he was big on saying, "I'm the chief. I'm the chief." This is some various witnesses actually that had encountered these people. He carried himself like a cop. His uniform was spot on to a regular cop uniform. We all thought he was a legit cop. Said a chef at the restaurant, so that you've got a server and a chef talk like from this restaurant that he frequented, kind of talking about this guy. They also had set up their organization near this church, and church members said that they didn't really talk to their neighbors, but they saw a few men come dressed in sharp suits. They drove a black Lincoln with no license plate. We thought they were a security company, said one church member. So Henry ends up getting charged with misdemeanors, 3 counts of perjury. Keel's charged as well with a number of charges. Impersonating officer, of course, being one of them. The 3 members, this is interesting, the 3 were group members of a religious philanthropy group that does work in South LA. Their work put them in contact with various politicians and community leaders. So Maxine Waters as well. Spokesman for Maxine Waters confirmed that the group had given her an award in 2012. A photo shows Waters with Keel and Henry. Henry is the leader of this Masonic fraternal police organization. And Henry was referred to as the absolute supreme sovereign grand master, which is typical for Freemasons. If you know anything about their structure, they use titles like this for themselves all the time. It's very grandiose, very douchey. So we've got a number of stories all talking about this same thing. This one includes pictures of the people. So this is David Henry, the Grand Master, and Brendan Keel over here is the aide. Was the aide for Kamala Harris. Yeah, I didn't. Most of these articles say the same things, but I just highlighted this one little quote where she says, "I know just about everything from coast to coast, and I ain't ever heard of nothing like that," she said. I just thought it was funny. It kind of sounds like Han Solo. Been never seen anything like the Force from one side to side of the galaxy. But she's just talking about this organization. Number of articles all saying the same thing. This one includes a picture from the website. Now, I went to the website. We'll look at that in a second here. And I don't know. None of this is there now. Or maybe you have to just get into a... maybe you have to have a login to get into this section of the website, because there is a login section I found. Another article from Politico. I always see them with their uniforms, so I thought they were part of any department. A neighbor of one of the 3 people arrested told the station. So plenty of people saw these people. They thought they were actual cops or an actual security agency. In one of these articles, I kind of skipped... Oh, yeah, right here. During a search of 2 locations, Santa Clarita Valley police officers uncovered badges, ID cards, weapons, uniforms, and vehicles, all resembling those of law enforcement officers. So these people did have some resources dedicated to this operation. Like, they had guns and uniforms, legitimate-looking uniforms, and police vehicles, or what looked like police vehicles. So this was, like, a pretty well-supported kind of operation. So let's look at the website. It's still up from this weird organization, the Masonic Fraternal Police Department. It says, the Masonic Fraternal Organization is one of the oldest and most respected organizations in the world. Grand Masters around the various states are facing serious safety concerns for their jurisdictions and their family members. The first police department was created by the Knights Templar back in 1100 BC. The Masonic Fraternal Police Department, MFPD, is the Knights Templars. When asked what is the difference between the Masonic Fraternal Police Department and other departments, the answer is simple for us. We are here first. We were here first. We are born into this organization. Our bloodlines go deeper than an application. This is more than a job. It is an obligation. All right. So I think they go on to say, like, the police chief is the Honorable Grand Master David Henry, 33rd degree. He was elected and is governed by a Grand Supreme Council and 33 Masonic jurisdictions. He currently oversees 500,000 members throughout the United States. So clearly this page hasn't been updated in a bit because that guy's dead now, so he does not oversee 500,000 members. But Masonic Fraternal Police Department provides services to Masonic Sovereign Grand Masters and their Masonic jurisdictions, as well as other fraternities, such as sororities and Greek organizations. Masonic Fraternal Police Department will be located in 33 other states, including Mexico City. So they say that they've got wide reach and that they are basically a law enforcement arm for the Masons and other connected organizations. But yeah, that's like all that's on this webpage. There's a little contact us. If you click that, it says it's password protected. So there is more to this website, but it's all blocked off now. But you know, you can come Masonic Fraternal Police Department.org if you want to send them a message, tell them, you know, that they're a bunch of douchebags or, you know, treasonous scum, you know, whatever you want. You know, they got some contact info for you. So this got me thinking about just the Masonic influence on police departments in general, though, and on our society. Looking at this older story, And, something I've noticed is Masonic license plates. I'm in Vermont, so I'm used to seeing this one. But every once in a while, you'll see those pop up, and it's like, why does a Freemason need something on their license plate? Well, historically, it's pretty accurate to say that Freemasons have had a strong influence on police departments. So we have this weird story of some separate organization outside of the police force, but they also have a large influence on police departments in general, with policemen being members themselves. And so when you see something like that, if you've got a really Masonic infested police department, well, something like that on your license plate, they might ignore some of what you're doing, or give you a pass where they wouldn't otherwise, because that's what Masons do. They help each other get ahead. They help each other cheat the systems, help each other get away with illegal activity, whatever it takes to help the brethren, because they are sworn to Masonry itself, to its secrets, and to all their BS. So here's a number of stories, because it's not just in America that we see this. It's actually a really big issue in Great Britain. We see a lot of stories coming out over the last few years about Masonry and its dark influence on the police departments over there. Here's a story about a former undercover police officer who was being presented with the Queen's Police Medal for bravery, but the Freemasons tried to ruin this guy's career, keep him from getting this medal. He claims he did not receive commendations for bravery because officers he believed to be Freemasons wrongly suspected him of blowing the whistle on one of their corrupt colleagues. Mr. Rogers, who during 6 years as an undercover officer nailed more than 100 criminals, many of them extremely violent, said the GMP's most senior officers eventually confirmed that Masons may have tried to block his progress. Mr. Rogers told the Sunday Telegraph, "I underwent a long struggle before I was eventually awarded the medal. My original nomination had been shredded by someone within CID. I believe they were protecting a senior officer who was later arrested and charged. I believe many senior officers were Masons." Mr. Rogers' disturbing allegations came after the Police Federation, which represents rank-and-file officers, claims attempts to reform the service are to this day being blocked by Masons, and their influence is thwarting the progress of women and black minority ethnic officers. So yeah, something that's kind of funny about this is, like, Masonry has a history of deep racism. The KKK is a spin-off of Masonry. It's all based on Masonic structure. The Grand Master of the KKK I believe is called like the Grand Cyclops, the one eye. It's all structured off of Masonry. And yeah, it's historically been deeply racist. There was a group of black individuals who wanted to join the Masonic Lodge, and in America they weren't allowed to. So they went to England, and they ended up getting a charter over there, and that's how Prince Hall Masonry started, and that's a black version of Masonry. But it was kept separate from the rest of Masonry. And so not all Masons are like deeply racist. It doesn't seem like all Masonic organizations are deeply racist, but a lot of them are. And so it's just kind of funny. Like, why are you so desperate to be a part of some organization that's like been so historically against your people? And it still is. We're seeing this, and it's like before they had to leave America and go to Europe, go to England to try to get their Prince Hall Masonry chartered. But now it seems like it's even a bigger issue in England with Masonic racism issues. Here's a story talking about that. Freemasons are blocking reform, says Police Federation leader. Reform in policing is being blocked by members of the Freemasons, and their influence in the service is thwarting the progress of women and people from black and minority ethnic communities. So, yeah, you've had a number of prominent. This is Steve White, who was the chair of this police federation. So you've got a number of prominent figures coming out and saying, like, hey, this is a big issue of Masonry, corruption in our police departments. Here's another article from The Guardian. This is an opinion piece just talking about how this is a big issue, though. He says, it is clear as ever that membership of both bodies is incompatible with public service. And this has actually been something that many people have said for decades. Prominent figures like the late Sir Kenneth Newman, who became the commissioner of the Metropolitan Police in 1982. He outlined his thoughts on how officers should behave in what became known as the Little Blue Book. Always a tactful man, his passage on Freemasonry noted delicately that the discerning officer will probably consider it wise to forego the prospect of pleasure and social advantage in Freemasonry, so as to enjoy the unreserved regard of all those around him. So it's not a harsh condemnation of Masonry, but he is saying that, to maintain the public trust, officers should probably not be a part of this secret organization. Others have said similar things throughout time. Steve White, the retiring chair of the Police Federation, that's this guy we just saw, talking about the issues in Masonry. Freemasonries within the Metropolitan Police Department created their own Masonic lodge called the Manor of St. James. This little Newman could do about it. Since then, commissioner after commissioner, though, has made the same point, speaking against police being involved in Masonry. The late Lord Imbert also took on the Freemasons. So did Lord Collin, it says. So a number of figures have dealt with this issue. This isn't a fringe topic. This is the real issue. This cult, Masonry is a cult, and it has a vast influence in our society. This part's interesting. It says Brian, now Lord Paddock, in his autobiography disclosed that he and his father had been Masons. He joined when he was young, 21, and when he was already an officer working under an unpopular superintendent in West London. He asked the superintendent if he was on the square. So he's asking him in coded language, "Are you a Mason?" And he says his attitude changed completely. Suddenly he became my best friend and showed me his Masonic regalia and the decorated apron he wore in Masonic meetings. He basically is pretty disappointed by how he went from treating him like crap to being like, oh, we're best friends because we're both Masons. And it says Paddock duly decided to give up attending Masonic meetings. This made him leave the order because he saw that this was corrupt, that these guys help each other get ahead and treat each other differently because they're Masons than they would treat the rest of the public. This is being a public servant and being a Mason, these things contradict each other. Masonry has its own agendas, and they're not good. They're not for the public. They're for itself. They're for its members. As recently as 1999, a former detective and Freemason, Duncan Haran, was jailed for more than 8 years for conspiracy to rob, supply drugs, and pervert the course of justice. Yes, Freemasons are dogs. Masonic dogs. So, here's another story that came out. What is it? What's the organization? Project Veritas has been doing a lot of stuff where they put out content that's basically showing how a lot of these tech companies are wildly corrupt. And So he's Project Veritas has been putting out interviews with various insiders who have left these organizations. And this is one of them that came out. And normally these people are willing to show their faces. This one was not. But let's see what he had to say.
But it was a special occasion that happened in May, and they invited us all to the Masonic Temple to talk about the future of the company for YouTube, and they described that they were going to have more content filtering. And right after that happened, a lot of the content creators started to get demonetized, and their videos started to get deranked.
So according to this guy, this guy who says he's a Google insider, and James O'Keefe and Project Veritas back that up, he says that they met in a Masonic lodge to discuss censorship, essentially, on YouTube, and deranking videos, demonetizing people, how they could censor people discussing various topics. And it happened in a Masonic lodge, according to this fellow. Very interesting. Here's another article from The Guardian talking about how there's 2 Masonic lodges set up at Westminster and continue to operate. Has a huge influence on your English society, you know. And it mentions here, just real quick, a 3rd lodge called the Alfred Robbins Lodge. Alfonso, where did I get that? All right, which was also set up for journalists. Also continues to meet regularly in London. So yeah, they've got a lodge just for, we had that lodge just for police that was formed. We have this one that's just for journalists. This cult influences all aspects of society. That's how they work. You can find old condemnations from powerful men, including popes and monarchs, condemning Masonry, talking about how this is how they work. They try to infiltrate all aspects of society to manipulate them from within, manipulate society en masse. This is a real issue. And so we can end our video by going back to that first story with Kamala Harris. Dem so white, remember that? So Kamala Harris, what happened with this story with Brendan Keel? Well, this is actually interesting. There was another person arrested, Adrienne Mayer. She was a secretary with the Department of Justice, also working for Harris. Was charged with unlawful use of a badge and impersonating a public officer, the LA Times reports. Court records show she pleaded to no contest to using the badge. The second charge was dismissed. Kamala Harris has had numerous individuals in her organization that have been impersonating police officers, got these weird Masonic connections. Kamala Harris is so obviously corrupt, just looking at her herself, but then looking at her department, you've got these cases like this. It's pretty shocking that this evil, horrible woman is put in a position of political power, and people just don't care on large. These people are so corrupt, and they just get away with everything. And yeah, so that's what happened. That's what happened with this case. Everybody gets away with it. Case against 3 who ran fake police force collapses. The David Henry, this fellow is dead. He died of a pulmonary embolism, and the charges against the other fellows were just dropped. He says, I believe this is the lawyer talking. He says, police could have told Mr. Henry and Miss Hayes and Mr. Keel, listen, this is not a good idea. Someone might think you're impersonating a police officer. Castleman said, I think the police are jealous of anyone who might be perceived as an interloper or, pardon the expression, a competitor. This is the most deranged statement. You've got people impersonating police officers, and it's all just let off. They're just let off the hook, and And they're talking about like, oh, they should have been nicer about like how they went after them. They should have just told them, hey, you can't do that. That's no good. Impersonating a cop, like any of us, any like normal citizen who did that, like you'd be in jail for forever. Like this is so ridiculous that these people get away with this. Keel said during interview when he was talking to the police that the State Department of Justice was well aware and supportive of the Masonic Fraternal Police Department, according to Hernandez's testimony. So eventually the shields were gradually pared down. At a preliminary hearing in January, all 4 counts against him were dismissed. They let some misdemeanor counts of perjury and conspiracy to commit perjury stand, but that's it. And this is his lawyer talking again. His life has been turned upside down. I don't know if he'll get his job back, but hopefully he can clear his name. This piece of shit who impersonated a cop got away with it, essentially. And that's it. That's the end of the story. That's it. Nobody gets in trouble. Yeah. So basically the moral of the story is that the Freemasons still have a massive impact on our society. They protect each other to get away with illegal activities. They work behind the scenes to manipulate our government, our media. You saw that. Journalist, Masonic Lodge. These people are scum, and they're controlling in every way they can the way that we see the world and the way that the world works. And we need to deal with that. These cultist scum should not be able to dictate what our society looks like. So, if you've liked this video, make sure to subscribe. We do lots of work here exposing the Masons and various secret societies and cults and their influence on our world. So, smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. I'll see you next time. Have a great day, guys.